FTX as a fraud scheme had nothing to do with crypto. For me, it was simply the Major League Baseball and the NBA. I thought that was too much. It didn't. The fraud investigator in me, 21 years in the Secret Service, the fraud investigator in me said this investigation isn't over yet.
Yeah.
And that's when we found out it was just beginning. Our government is not neither party. So I'm not here to be political. Our government is not a fan of cryptocurrencies. Well, guess what? The fiat currencies, you had your chance, and you've been screwing it up big time. So something like Bitcoin was only a matter of time. Where with any of the government effort to curtail cryptos, I just think it's going to force them either underground or offshore.
You're listening to the Light Edge Podcast, the place to learn, grow, and succeed.
As you can tell, we have Yergz back with us again from the Doggy Traders. So, Yergz, how you been?
Great. Excellent. Thank you for having me.
How's life been? Tell us what's new.
So doing a little bit of expanding, wrapping up being, not wrapping up being a dad, but wrapping up being a homeschooling dad. He's going to graduate this month, and we just applied for college today. And then the Doggy Traders is expanding into not just the other platforms of social media that we've expanded to since we last talked, but also into television. We're looking at Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Android TV. We're still in a homework phase, and we're making sure that it's the right move. But for the live streaming, I felt it was more my responsibility to go after the viewer and to be available where they are. So live streaming, we're on not only YouTube, but we live stream to Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Telegram. The students that follow me for day trading, we're in a special group on Telegram, and they can get anything that we do live there as well. So that's 6 platforms. And we did that for a little while, and I noticed that YouTube specifically was not growing. Well, that's not a shock because I'm not sending everybody to YouTube. However, overall, especially for my niche, which is more of a business type of content, LinkedIn exploded. And some of the other platforms grew rapidly as well. So while I haven't hit that 1,000 member or subscriber plateau on or achievement on YouTube, I have overall. And I think that's better because I'm not here for me. I'm not here to get that, check mark on 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm here to help 1,000 people make better and more money. And if it means I have to be on multiple platforms to do that, I'm very willing to do that. Fast forward, to continuing that business model when we realized that we could possibly expand again. And that means getting into what I'm calling, and what I think a lot of my colleagues call, internet television. It's not through cable. It's not through Spectrum or Comcast or any of the popular and available cable networks or providers. It's through internet television, Roku, Apple TV. So yeah, we're looking at that, and there's, in addition to the Doggy Traders, I recognize that my audience, solely my audience, would not be big enough to support a TV channel yet. So we're talking with other creators in my particular niche market of investing, not even just day trading or crypto, but we at the Doggy Traders are expanding into real estate. And then, there's other people that I trade with that are on teams and talk with that are bigger into stocks. So I'd be stupid not to allow content like that on the network. So that's why we're still in the homework phase. Unfortunately, as a result, it's not a definite. But I think everything right now has been really pointing to the capability to get around whatever hurdles we've got, or to get over them, and just continue to expand and reach people that can benefit from the content that we create.
So you guys are looking to expand. That must mean that you like education's going well, trading's going well. A lot of things are doing well outside of that. As am I
The
reading that wrong?
saying is the doctor's kids are always sick. So my trading is not going well because there's much less of it happening.
Mm.
But with the homeschooling of my son, whose math class was day trading, our knowledge is expanding greatly. And from everything from Monday morning class that we attend called Mindset Mondays, where it just talks about your mental state and how to properly take the day off if you're not feeling it, to what stress does to you, how to deal with stress, and so that way when you're in a trade and it's not as productive as what you thought it would be by now, you can live through it and handle it and nurse it into profit.
Yeah.
Get it profitable and not, unless the market took a turn, and that'll happen, not get out of it just because of a panic. How to stay a course and stick to a plan, but still have sound what we call risk management. So the trading will get back within the next couple of weeks. He graduates this month. He starts college in May. He's going to college right away. And that's, as I think we may have shared last time, he's actually adopted. I'm a single dad, and he's adopted, and so he's getting some financial aid from the state, and as such, he will continue to get financial aid if he were to stay in school. So instead of taking a summer off, like he should be able to, we're going to go right to college, and it's not going to be, he's going to be full time ish, lower level of full time, but just the minimum number so that he gets the financial aid he's entitled to.
Yeah.
Because once you live those months with no financial aid, you're never going to get it back. You're not going to get that on the back end. That's why I retired as soon as I was eligible, because if I don't, that's lost pension. So he's going to get financial aid continuing this summer. That's going to free me up to get really back into more aggressive trading. I'm excited for that because the cryptos are coming into a really positive space right now. They're becoming more active, similar to how they were 2 years ago when I made a boatload of money in my first year of trading, and I'm excited to ride those coattails.
Last time we talked, you said you traded crypto, but you were also trading the indexes. Are you just focusing more on crypto now? And then which cryptos are you staying, like the blue chip cryptos like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or are you going into some of the altcoins as well?
I am on the indices, mostly the NASDAQ and US 30. But sometimes the Nikkei can move. What I'm liking about the indices right now is that they very much represent the cryptos of 2 years ago. I'll make sure my hand stays on the camera here. As we followed the candles from 2 years ago, cryptos were up and they were down, and then they were up and they were down, and it was a very rhythmic up and down. And some of my initial team members said, don't get into cryptos. They're too volatile. You're going to lose everything, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, but wait a minute. That volatility is rhythmic. Rhythmic is predictable. And I killed it. The indices are in that same similar, not as rhythmic, but are at least in a similar type of space right now where it's an up and down pattern. And it's maybe a little less so, but still on a productive level of predictability. The cryptos are coming back to that. To answer your question on which cryptos, I do two things with cryptos. I buy and hold, and then transfer to stable coins when we think it's at a top, let it fall, and buy it all back. So that's one type of trading. And then the other is I get into just plain good old-fashioned trades through your trading app. And on that, I do a lot of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Some of the coaches that I follow do some calls on Solana and Cardano. I do not own any Cardano or Solana right now. I don't get into them. Not that they're not productive or can't be, but I just think so many, besides I think really the big two, and that of course is Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's too much happening with governments right now. Look at Tether. Tether was a stable coin and is really struggling, just because the Securities and Exchange Commission started going after it. And then, other people started looking into it, and I thought, well, Tether doesn't have behind it what they say they've got behind it, and that's a problem. So I'm really, as far as ownership, I'm just doing Bitcoin and Cardano, or excuse me, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I trade, what is moving and remains predictable. And that, of course, is, again, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also Solana and Cardano are two others that I've been looking a lot at.
How did you fare during the FTX situation? Were you trading? And then, if you wouldn't mind, just giving a little brief talk about what actually happened there.
So I'll start with that. The biggest black eye that the crypto space is trying to get rid of is that the whole FTX debacle was about crypto. And the fact is that's not true. FTX, as it going under and the whole fraud scheme behind it, had nothing to do with crypto. Let me say that again. FTX, as a fraud scheme, had nothing to do with crypto. It was just simply the tool that was used. So think about Bernie Madoff. He was doing, whatever, whether it was IRAs or mutual funds or some sort of other more conservative, more traditional type of investing, but he was committing fraud. This is no different. Sam Bankman-Fried is the next Bernie Madoff. And he just used crypto and that whole type of context or concept to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because FTX happened within the crypto space doesn't make FTX bad.
You mean
sorry,
doesn't make
that doesn't make crypto bad. It makes FTX bad. That they were illegally tied to, I think it was Alameda Research, their other hedge fund company, should have scared a lot of people off right away. Or if not scared off, then inspired them to do better due diligence and their own homework, and look into the people that were running the company. I'm brain farting on her name, and I've said it so many times on my own show, but the girlfriend who was running FTX 1 minute, running Alameda the other, she went on a podcast where they're sitting in like a living room, kind of a low budget type of show because they're passing the microphone back and forth. And she's sitting there saying, when we trade, you have to have a strong stomach, which can be true because, things can take a dip. That doesn't mean the market has reversed. It just means that you're not in profit yet. Well, that's how they lost. Literally, it was countless for a while. I think we're easily up to hundreds of millions and into billions of dollars by not using what we call stop losses. A stop loss is when you set up a trade, it's kind of like an if-then statement in computer programming. If the value of whatever we're trading hits this bottom point, get me out. It's We don't believe it's going to turn around at that point, at least not right away. Get me out and we'll cut our losses. She admitted on this podcast, which maybe it had a big audience, maybe it didn't, but she admitted that they don't use stop losses. When you're doing that with other people's money, you use stop losses. It's just an ethical issue and a level of responsibility she admitted they were not taking. So that was, at that point, if you're somebody like Tom Brady or Mr. Wonderful or Larry David or some of these people that are being sued because they endorsed FTX, you have to be aware that things like this are being said on some sort of public platform, at which point you need to reevaluate. So what they did was, it was just constant over leveraging. And when a competitor who was also one of their investors, also stupid, when competitors called in loans, they couldn't pay it. And when people started heavily withdrawing funds, they couldn't back it. And that took, their own accounts from, 9, 10 digits or more to zero real quick. My son and I, when we first, I adopted, when I retired from the Secret Service, I wanted a family, and I looked into adoption. And my son and I started, looking into investing in crypto for both of us. And so FTX was one of the potential vendors. And just in doing my own due diligence, and this isn't, a heavy Secret Service investigation like I used to be able to do. This was just, looking into the company and seeing if this is a right fit. I also used to be a minor league baseball umpire. And so I'm familiar with professional, but also Major League Baseball. I have an idea what it's like to advertise with Major League Baseball. Even if all that idea tells me is that it's not cheap, I have an idea. We'll come back to that. They already have, or had, it's gone now, FTX Arena in Miami. Also, not a cheap investment. I'm not saying it's a bad one, because the exposure that you have being associated with the National Basketball Association and the Miami Heat is not a bad thing. But you did have to pay for that, and that's a monthly fee. So now they got that. Now let's come back to baseball. Do you know what where they advertised on baseball? Do you know where that was? From the middle of the 2021 season, coming back from the All-Star break of July 2021 through the World Series of 2022, they were on the right chest and left shoulder of every Major League umpire on the whole staff for Major League Baseball. What does that translate to? That for a year and a half...
Lots of views.
Exactly. For a year and a half, they were on every single pitch of Major League Baseball, because whether it's from any play in the field or that center field angle that comes over the shortstop's shoulder and through the pitcher and looking in on home plate, that logo was in every pitch for a year and a half. That, I promise you, was not cheap.
Mm.
And so to have that and the Miami Heat and all these huge celebrity endorsements that they've got to be paying for, that we find out now they're not, or weren't, or not in full. Some of these people that are being sued, they're actually victims too.
Yeah.
They were out a lot of money that they were entitled to. it just made me do a second look, and I said, I can't. My son and I had a link. We could have signed up through one of the other content creators for digital currencies that I follow, and I said, this just doesn't feel right. I'm already with Coinbase. I'm already with crypto.com, and they're known to be doing well. And maybe they're not as big, but that's okay. They're successful. That's the bigger deal. And that was last summer. Less than a week after the end of the 2022 World Series, FTX was no more. And I was like, I'm not surprised. When I saw FTX was a young company, so to have the major league deal that we talked about and the NBA deal that we talked about isn't necessarily an unrealistic thing. But even if they were still alive today, they would still be a very young company to have that type of advertising, regardless of how big they are. Because any number of investors worth their salt are going to say, hey, slow down. Make sure that if things go bad, like they did, we'll survive it, like they didn't. And it was my opinion back in the summer that they were too much too soon. And regardless of how little chip off the block we were with our investment, I didn't want to risk it. It was too much for us. And so now we're glad we didn't.
For you, it wasn't the fact that you discovered they were super over leveraged on basically fake assets through Alameda Research.
I didn't even know that yet.
You just
I didn't even know that yet.
Okay.
For me, it was simply the Major League Baseball and the NBA. I thought that was too much. It didn't. The fraud investigator in me, 21 years in the Secret Service, the fraud investigator in me said this investigation isn't over yet.
Yeah.
And that's when we found out it was just beginning.
Just to refresh, most of your investigations with the Secret Service were in finance.
Correct. Bank fraud.
Yeah.
The first thing we were authorized to investigate when we were founded in 1865 was counterfeit currency. In 21 years, I never did a counterfeit currency investigation. It was all electronic. And that's just where our money's going. Our government is not neither party, so I'm not here to be political. Our government is not a fan of cryptocurrencies. Well, guess what? The fiat currencies, you had your chance, and you've been screwing it up big time. So something like Bitcoin was only a matter of time. Now, the fiats are trying to make it hard for the cryptos, and I think it's just going to push. It's going to push them underground, and it's going to push them to the third world countries that are going to be gaining strength from it. Look at, I think it was El Salvador or one of the Central American countries that made Bitcoin their official currency.
Yeah,
and they're doing a lot better. Yeah, I mean, there's speed bumps, but they're doing a lot better. And why? Because as a third world country, they've got citizens that are now registering, so they can pay groceries with a phone. But now they're learning about this new citizen that they didn't know they had. That's tax revenue. And as a result, those countries are actually starting to turn around.
Yeah. So we see right now it's April 2023, and there's this new talk of CBDCs coming out because the government doesn't want people switching from their fiat currency over to Bitcoin, right? So with your background, is pushing, say, banning Bitcoin or forcing it out, do you see that working out well?
No. I mean, didn't we try that? Prohibition, drugs, certain behavioral things within, like the religious community when religions were more part of your local government. No, it's not going to end well. There are too many other competitor fiat nations that are embracing cryptocurrencies. The European Union just passed legislation that put restrictions that put better. I'm not saying the whole Wild West from the past 8 or so years of how cryptos were there needs to be regulation, and I do think that they are securities and should be, regarded as such. However, jealousy is going to get you nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all the fiat currencies that are against crypto. I mean, China banned mining altogether, and look what happened. Everybody left China, legally or otherwise. And Florida, where I'm at now, is one of the world's largest crypto mining states. Why? Because they can, and they've also, the government here has also provided incentive for that to be, especially if you're leaning on a more green type of mining. Like we all know, Bitcoin is less so, which is also a stupid thing because the world's energy used to mine Bitcoin for a year can power the entire city of Las Vegas for a month. So if we stop mining any Bitcoin
Across the whole
and
world.
take and take all of that energy and give it to the city of Las Vegas, they'll keep the lights on for 1 month. That's it. So it's not a huge, drop in the bucket as everybody's trying to make it seem. And the point of that is, with Bitcoin not really being as expensive as what it's made out to be, everything else is getting better.
Mm.
So now there's something like 5,000 or 6,000 different cryptocurrencies. Would I trade any of the, 4,995? No. But the thing of them is they're valid to those people using them. And there is value, in the exchange, at least at that time. Are you going to hedge them to, gain wealth? No, that's going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin used to be a currency, and now, when Mark Cuban first said this, I kind of got a little angry. I thought he was wrong. But he said, Bitcoin is no longer a currency. It is the new gold standard. And I thought about it for a moment, like, wow, that's pretty brilliant. I think he's spot on. Because, I mean, I'm not going to, pay for something with Bitcoin anymore. Everybody's, holding it. And that's what people used to do with gold investments, and some still do. But I mean, it's kind of, so 1975, where with any of the government effort to curtail cryptos, I just think it's going to force them either underground or offshore, meaning, to the countries that, do still allow it. And, it's, when you bring it into the American dollar, you just have to pay taxes on it, and that's essentially what makes it legal. They're really, if you can find a country where you can have a bank account and not tell the United States government about it, good luck. Because I looked, one of the channels we talked about is for Belize. Years ago, I was in one of the banks, and I just got an application to, knowing that I'd be back and be back many times. I thought it would probably have, smart to have a bank account here. Top right corner of the document of the application was a spot for a social security number. Now, why do Belizeans need to fill out their? So they don't have one. It doesn't exist there. But there's a social security number. And the reason is to do banking for the government in Belize, to do banking with the United States government, they have to be taking the social security numbers of any American applicant to bank with their bank, or who wants to bank with their bank. And then that, of course, gets reported to, then it got reported to the Treasury Department. Now it gets reported to both Treasury and Homeland Security. For both not only tax evasion or tax awareness, but also for drug money. Homeland Security is who monitors that on behalf of themselves, and the Justice Department for drug and money laundering. So there it was, top right corner, 3 dots, 2 dots, and 4 dots. And I'm like, there's only one number I know that I could put there, and the people here in Belize don't have that. And the manager's like, yeah, that's correct. It's for you. So good luck finding something offshore that the government's not going to know about. But that doesn't mean that you can't get cryptos through Belize or Canada or wherever else. The United Kingdom is not looking to, and I, kind of a bit of a privileged position, but I did hear one of the members of the Trump administration say, "I will get rid of Bitcoin." Now, of course, instead the American people got rid of him, but Republicans are not in favor of cryptos either. And I think the Democrats are actually the ones that are more favorable. It's just they want the regulation to protect their constituents, but everybody against the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world.
Do you feel so? Based on that comment, I will get rid of Bitcoin. For the people that say, "Well, the government will just make it go away," is that even a real thing because of how the system's set up and how it works?
Yeah, it's too far gone. I just go, wow, he's senile when I hear Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger still saying that Bitcoin's a bubble. It's the only, what are we at now, 11, 12, 13-year-old bubble that hasn't burst yet and is actually getting stronger. Yeah, it's not a bubble.
Explain the getting stronger, because I don't think people understand that there's other data outside of just the price in US dollars that determines how well Bitcoin is doing.
Yeah, so there's market cap. How many people are getting into it? Just because Bitcoin, for example, isn't back up to the 69,000 high that it was a year, 2 years ago, or whenever, doesn't mean that its popularity has decreased. And I think that is all collectively actually a good thing, in that when it hit that 69,000, excuse me, when Bitcoin hit that 69,000, there was a lot of excitement, and there was a lot of unexperienced talk about how soon it's going to hit 100,000 and 400 and 500,000, and nobody said anything about it tanking. And that's exactly what it did. But that's what happens. That's that rhythmic up and down that we talked about earlier that happens when you hit a high. Everybody wants to cash out, and that forces that value to come down low. But what it also did was it brought a lot of people back into it. By it crashing, it gained popularity because it's now more affordable again. More affordable in that we all know it's eventually going to go back up to 69,000. And if you get in at half that, you're going to double your money. That's not that hard. Now it's just a matter of when. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is the Mark Cubans, the Elon Musks, some of the people who were essentially, call it what it looks like anyway, manipulating the price by tweeting. They're quiet now. And I think that's fine too, because it allows for more new people to do their homework, to learn about the different cryptos, not just Bitcoin, and to learn about the industry itself. The biggest critique that I hear constantly about cryptocurrencies is that, well, what does it do? It's not tangible. And I fire back with, okay, well, do you know your net worth? And they shrug and they give me some number that's nowhere close to realistic, but they think they do. I said, okay, $200,000 positive. That's pretty good. It must mean you own your house. Well, no, I rent. Oh, so you're making a payment every month. Anyway, like a mortgage payment, but nothing to show for it. Let's say you had a mortgage. Show me that. Well, it's my house. No, that's your house. Show me the mortgage. What is tangible about your mortgage? It's a document. It's an agreement. It's a theory. That's all cryptos are. However, the better part is that they're on the blockchain. Every single Bitcoin transaction can be studied and be evaluated. Tried to do that with a mortgage. Tried to do that with a mortgage back in 2008. Good luck with that. And that's really what caused the 2008 real estate crash, was that there were so many mortgages out there that nobody really knew anything about them. So cryptos, when you ask, history repeats itself because no one listens the first time. And we tried to
That's
ban
a great
alcohol.
saying. Sorry. That is
Sorry.
that is an amazing saying. Say that one more time.
History repeats itself because no one listens the first time. We tried to ban alcohol. It didn't work. We tried to ban drugs, and now, on some level, marijuana is legal. And I see some others, some of the uh, better produced party drugs, being legal within the next generation or two. But yet, so many governments try to legislate morality instead of teaching it. And when you do that, you just say, okay, it's time for me to be bad. To your populace, it's time for me to be bad. If I can't have it, I want it. And so to do that with crypto, as opposed to regulating it, making it safe for everybody, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, that would be a stronger response. It would be a safer response for the populace, and it wouldn't send it overseas. By banning it, and that's what some are actually wanting to do. By banning it, it admits guilt, or I'm sorry, it admits jealousy, like your money's doing better than mine. The dollar, for example. Think about that. One Bitcoin, right here. What are we up to right now? About $30,000 for one Bitcoin? Who else can say that? Besides a car. One car, $30,000. So to try to say that they're going to they'll try to. They don't know how to do it yet, but they'll try to ban these certain things like China did. And I just see it, the revolution here being at the polls. It's growing too much. The market caps are growing, not quickly, which I think is healthy. They're growing steadily. And as with, obviously, of course, the popularity and the usage of it. As far as, if it does become what we'll just call too regulated, then I think you can expect it to go offshore. It's not going to go underground because it's not going to have anywhere to go. It's electronic, and like I said, it's all seeable, and that's the point. It's supposed to be. It's not used to launder money. And again, that's a certain level of the point of it. But, it is used to launder money, but that's not what it's for. And the laundering is noticeable because at the end of the day, all that Bitcoin is going to come back to being the US dollar. I bought this house in part with Bitcoin. And I had to prove that when I got the Bitcoin, I bought it with my money, held it as my Bitcoin. It raised in value. I cashed out. I used it to buy the house. Some of the people at my mortgage company, what's now my former mortgage company, because they sold my mortgage and then proceeded to go out of business. But what was my former mortgage company, they said, well, don't worry. If we can't validate your funds to buy the Bitcoin, we'll have you send that money to a family member and then have that family member send it back to you. So let me get this straight. You're going to have me, remember now, at this time, I'm still a federal agent.
You said they're out of business, though, right?
Yeah. They in fact, about 6 months after they sold, right after they settled the mortgage with me, they sold it to another company called PennyMac, and then 6 months after that, they went under. But I said, let me get this straight. I'm a federal agent. and you just told me to send money to a family member, making them a tax liability, because now that's income for that family member, turning around and sending it back to me, making it taxable to me when it's mine in the first place. And by the way, that's money laundering, which is exactly what all of this is supposed to stop. I said,
Not
you
only
can do
that,
one of two
you had to
things.
pay taxes on it twice.
Yeah. I said, so you can do two things. You can validate this, or you can send me where else, tell me where else I can go, because I'm not doing anything more of this. And the thing, by this point, I had already proven. I sent them statements. I figured out I was kind of new with exactly how to navigate through Coinbase and crypto.com and so on. So to get the statement for things like tax purposes and for using it to prove ownership for purposes of a mortgage, I was new, and so I didn't really know where to get these documents from the app or the website or anything. We finally figure all that out, and then they come up with this crazy ass plan B that is going to cost me more money that I need to close. I can't be spending that money paying taxes on something that I shouldn't be paying taxes on just because you can't do your job. I had this one poor girl crying, and I to this day feel bad about that. But
I
I mean,
think I think what you just described is what keeps most people out of it. Is people are so
yeah,
scared of not knowing what to do and how to actually be able to use it, because that's a big pushback that I get from a lot of people about crypto in general. Is in order to use it, for the most part, you still have to exchange it into USD, and then you get
no. Um, we were one of the things we're still the Yerger group is still in the process of exploring is the hospitality industry.
mm,
And this was 2 years ago. I thought we were going to be the first hotel to accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for payment. There are more than 200,000 hotel brands worldwide that already do it, back
mm.
as of 2 years ago. So, no,
What
you
else?
do
What
not
else
have
can you
to.
buy with Bitcoin? What other purchases can you make?
Okay, so with regards to my mortgage, I'm here in Florida, in essentially the greater Tampa Bay area. And I went through all these, bells and whistles and hoops to, you know, have that. And that was only for a third of that was just, for a nice down payment. Right down the road in Miami, there are plenty of cash deals in the real estate industry happening in Bitcoin.
Hmm.
So here in the same state, I had to do what I had to do to get my mortgage approved. Meanwhile, 4 hour drive away in an area where the buildings are falling down, people are buying with Bitcoin and paying in full and being happy with it, and sellers are accepting. So it's here. It is new. There is a lot of stigma that needs to be dealt with and needs to be corrected. By day trading, by in crypto investing, by doing whatever, if you educate yourself, um, you're not going to lose your house. You're not going to lose your retirement. You're not going to lose anything like that. If you use sound risk management, you're not going to do anything like that. Sit down at the poker table with money you're prepared to lose, because it could happen. But as soon as you become educated in the industry, as soon as you become practiced, those losses are going to become fewer and fewer and less frequent. And that's when you turn yourself into a professional trader. And, do I trade and do I have losses? Yeah. Um, I had cashed out pretty much everything to buy the house. So I never really built that back up yet because I took most of last year off. Now I had a small account that I was, teaching the son with, and we had some cryptos. Ethereum was one of them, that took a pretty steep dive, and we said, okay, that's its current bottom. It's going to go up, and we all got into buys, saying that we thought the evaluation of Ethereum was going to go up, and it went down again, and we all lost. And I almost blew an account. I pretty much did because I only got like $50 in it now, and I only lost like 120. But you need $100 to trade, with most brokers. So I'm down below that threshold, and like, well, I got to fund it with some Bitcoin again and get back in the game. But that is a loss is pennies on what some losses I've had before would be when I had a $25,000 account. I lost $120. All right, well, get it back on the next one. So stigmas are there. I did a video for my channel on turning $2.50 into, or actually, $250 into 2.5 million, just by mentally moving the decimal point. When you see a $1.50 profit, move the decimal point over and make it a $15 profit in your head, because before it gets that $15 profit, it's going to be down $15. So when you're that new high deficit that's temporary, you'll be comfortable with it by the time you actually achieve a $15 deficit and turn it around into a $15 profit. So later, when you get into 4 digits and 5 digit, okay, I'm down $1,000 right now. I just get in the trade. Give it time, let it breathe, and it turns around. So there's stigma, but I think that's one of the things we teach is the true side of it. I have a playlist for the lifestyle series, I call it, and it's me driving around in my minivan. It's me doing real things that all the other real day traders are doing. We don't drive Ferraris. There was one guy that we caught. He's out in the driveway of this really nice house. He says, I was this crappy job 4 or 5 years ago. Now look at me. This is my house. Come with me. I'm going to take you on a tour. And the focus goes from this, and where you see my fingers in the camera, goes from that in the driveway to that as he takes you around the house. And the reason was, if you concentrated and looked past him in that camera, you saw there was no furniture. And I forget how we did it, but we figured out an address. And then we went through all his friends and his social media. And lo and behold, one of his friends was the listing agent for the house he just gave you a tour of and said was his. It wasn't his house.
It's all fake.
It's all, bullshit. So you come and follow him because you want to be like him. The comedian Ralphie May says, most people give you what you want. Daddy gives you what you need. And at the Doggy Traders, we give you what you need. We give you a truth. But we also help you say you're not going to lose your house. We're not going to let you. You want to go out on your own and make stupid trades, that's on you. But that's why you're going to lose your house. That's why you're going to blow an account. That's why you're not going to be able to pay bills with the money you're trying to pay bills with in profits from trading. We have sound risk management, unlike, I almost thought of her name. I almost thought of her name from earlier. We have sound risk management, unlike Sam Bankman-Fried and company. We do use stop losses. And more importantly, before we even get that far, we do sound market analysis. Should we be in this trade in the first place? If we would have taken that Ethereum trade a couple of weeks ago a little further, maybe that answer would have been no. But in that case, everybody was saying, yeah, it's going to go back up. It was a logical play. It didn't happen. Come back tomorrow.
Was it Alameda and FTX that had went like 6 months without their risk management officer before the crash? Wasn't it one of them?
It was. They didn't have a CFO for a while. I mean, how you can be in finance and not have a CFO is a head scratcher. But And this is one of the sad things about it, but it was a lot of youth and inexperience that was running both a lot of youth inexperience and bullshit. Sorry for my language, but you can't, just say, oh, it's kind of dark gray. No, it was black, a bad black, cloudy. Um, there was a bunch of, it was a college campus. It was a fraternity house. It wasn't a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately, besides the fraud, which is obvious, besides the fraud, that's really why it collapsed. Was there was no structure, there was no infrastructure with the structure.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't the risk management in place. There wasn't the CFO in place. There wasn't anybody saying, "Hey, this is stupid." Except a lot of people at the end of the day, and by that point, it was too late.
Yeah. Well, Ross, I appreciate you coming on today. Is there anything that you want to make sure you leave the listener with? And not only coming on today, but coming on again and just giving an update of where you are, what's going on, the expansion. That's all really exciting.
Yeah, thank you. As a parting shot, don't be scared of the crypto markets. In fact, I think now is becoming, all of the guys I talk with are saying by the end of this year, we'll be in a much better time to buy. I just saw a trade. Bitcoin hit 30,000 again as of this recording today, and it was a sell. So it's in one of the potential zones for get out with profit was back down to as far as $20,000. If that happens, please get in and consider, always do your own homework and make your own decisions. But by that, you're not going to see it that low again for, ever, because things are happening within not just the U.S. government. My European friends are constantly watching the dollar, but there's so much more out there. There's the euro, there's the yen is strong again. There's so much more out there that's going to be influencing these cryptos to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that if you do your homework, and that's time for the shameless plug for the Doggy Traders, but stop by, listen to us, and check out our social media. I'll send you the Linktree link so that if you want to put that in the comments. But stop by and check out the Doggy Traders. We're now fully better developing our educational series of videos where you can better learn about and cryptos. That's where we're going to be filming later this week. And they're short, quick, easy, and we're developing the next steps of what you would follow next. But it's an excellent entry in how to get into trading, investing, cryptos, etc. I do agree with Mark Cuban. I think Bitcoin is the next gold standard, and that's what's going to allow for people to buy a third of their house.
Yeah. And I agree with Yergz here. If you're new to crypto, if you haven't delved into it much, check out his channel. Go get his education. The reason I really recommend his is because he was a federal agent who understands the U.S. law and what is right and what is wrong. And so the information you're getting is going to coincide with what is actually legal. And that is a big, important deal right now for people. So, Yergz, thank you so much for being here. Real
Always
quick, just shout out your handle real quick so people can go find you wherever you're at.
Anywhere you want to be at Doggy Traders, DOGGY Traders. And like I said, I'll shoot Chris the link for a Linktree. You can get all our social media that way as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll put those links down below in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you like this podcast, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you're listening on audio only, make sure you leave us a rating and review because that helps us just get to more listeners. So thanks, Yergz, and I hope you have a great day.
My pleasure. Thank you. See you again.